Dnipro, formerly called Dnepropetrovsk, is the fourth largest city in Ukraine. Its population is estimated to be around 1 million inhabitants. It is located in the central eastern part of Ukraine, 391 kilometers southeast of the Ukrainian capital Kiev, on the Dnieper River, after which it is named. It became a vital industrial center of Soviet Ukraine, one of the key centers of the nuclear arms and space race. It's a city with a lot of heritage and history. These days it's known as a large business hub in the country of Ukraine. The city Dnepropetrovsk was renamed Dnipro in May 2016. While the city is steeped in history and heritage, one piece of history that the residents would love to forget is the legacy of the Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs. The Dnepropetrovsk Maniacs are Ukrainian serial killers responsible for a string of murders in Dnipro in June and July of 2007. The case gained additional notoriety because the killers made video recordings of some of the murders, with one of which got leaked to the internet in late 2008. The video, famously known as 3 Guys 1 Hammer, was leaked to a US shock site. Two 19-year-old locals, Viktor Sienko and Igor Saprutnyuk, both born on the 20th of April in 1988, were arrested and charged with 21 murders. A third conspirator, Alexander Hanza, born February 1988, was charged with 2 armed robberies that took place before the murder spree. On the 11th of February 2009, all 3 defendants were found guilty. Sienko and Saprutnyuk were sentenced to life imprisonment, while Hanza received 9 years in prison. The lawyers for Sienko and Saprutnyuk launched an appeal which was dismissed by the Supreme Court of Ukraine in November 2009, just over 2 years from the murders. The first 2 murders took place late at night on the 25th of June in 2007. The first victim was a 33-year-old local woman named Ekaterina Ilchenko, who was walking home after having tea at her female friend's apartment. According to Sienko's confession, he and Saprutnyuk were out for a walk. Saprutnyuk had a hammer. As Ilchenko walked past, Saprutnyuk spun round and struck her in the side of the head. Ilchenko's body was found by her mother at 5 a.m. Within an hour of the first murder, the 2 men attacked their next victim, Roman Tatarovich. He was sleeping on a bench a short walk away from the first murder scene. Tatarovich's head was smashed with blunt objects numerous times, rendering him unrecognizable. The bench he was discovered on was located across the street from the local public prosecutor's office. On July 1st, 2 more victims, Evgenia Grishchenko and Nikolai Serchuk, were found murdered in the nearby town of Novomoskovsk. On the night of July 6th, 3 more people were found murdered in Dnipro. The first was Igor Nekchevolda, a recently discharged army recruit who was bludgeoned while walking home from a nightclub. His mother found the body in the morning by their apartment building. Once again, the body was barely recognizable. Elena Shram, a 28-year-old night guard, was then murdered around the corner on Kosiora Street. According to Sienko's taped confession, as Shram walked towards them, Saprutnyuk struck her with a hammer he had been hiding under his shirt and struck her several more times after she fell down. She had been carrying a bag filled with clothes. The men picked up the bag, used the clothes to clean the hammer, and then threw the bag out. Later that same night, the men then murdered a woman named Valentina Hanza. No apparent relation to the co-defendant Alexander Hanza. She was a mother of 3, married to a disabled husband. The next day, on July 7th, 2 14-year-old boys at a nearby village were attacked in the broad daylight as they were fishing. One of the 2 friends escaped. Andrei Sidyuk was killed, but the other, Vadim Lyakov, managed to escape. On July 12th, a 48-year-old man named Sergei Yatsenko, disabled by a recent bout with cancer, went missing while riding his motorcycle. His body was found 4 days later, with signs of a savage attack clearly visible even after 4 days in the summer heat. The murder of Sergei Yatsenko was actually caught on camera. The boys filmed as they tortured and murdered Sergei Yatsenko. This tape would eventually find its way to the internet after being leaked to a US shock site on December the 4th, 2008. The infamous graphic video went viral and would later be dubbed 3 Guys 1 Hammer. After the killing of Sergei Yatsenko, 13 more murders followed, often with multiple bodies found on the same day. In addition to the earlier sprees, 2 victims were found every day from July 14th through till July 16th. While the victims were seemingly selected at random, many were vulnerable to attack, including women, children, the elderly, vagrants, or people under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Most of the victims were killed using blunt objects, including hammers and steel construction bars. Blows were often directed at the victims' faces, leaving them unrecognizable. Many of the victims were also mutilated and tortured, and some had their eyes gouged out while they were still alive. One of the victims was a pregnant woman, whose fetus was cut out of her womb. No sexual assaults on any victims were reported. Some of the victims were also robbed of their cell phones and other valuables, with their possessions pawned.
Bro, they're like 20 at the time of these murders, no?
Watch this. Old man also pub new map Zulal -10.
That's fucking
to a large network of second-hand shops in the area. However, most victims had their possessions intact. The murders spanned a large geographical area. In addition to the city of Dnepropetrovsk itself, many of the murders actually took place in the outlying areas of Dnepropetrovsk. But what about the motive? The prosecution did not establish a specific motive behind the killings. Local media reported that the killers had a plan to get rich from the murder videos that they recorded, although they all came from very rich and powerful families. One of the suspects' girlfriends reported that they was planning to make 40 videos of separate murders. This was corroborated by the suspect's former classmate, who claimed that he often heard that Saprunyuk was in contact with an unknown rich foreign website operator who ordered 40 snuff videos and would pay a large sum of money once they were made. Regional Security Chief Ivan Stupak rejected the claim that the murders had been committed to make internet snuff videos, saying that no evidence had come to light during the investigation that supported this claim. Detective Bogdan Vlasenko stated, "We think they was doing it as a hobby, to have a collection of memories when they get old." Deputy Interior Minister Nikolai Kopiensky commented, "For these young men, murder was like entertainment or hunting." At the trial, it emerged that Saprunyuk had collected newspaper cuttings about the case. Some of the photographs of the crimes had captions added, including, "The weak must die, the strongest will conquer." So obviously, they were just having fun. Now it's interesting about the images with captions, you know, stating that the weak must die and the strongest will conquer. And that really kind of goes to show their mentality when selecting victims. You know, their victims were either very old, drunk, children, ultimately very vulnerable people who couldn't defend themselves. And it's ironic that they say the strongest will conquer when they were literally picking out the weakest members of society. They weren't picking out, you know,